Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Toadstool Sports. Best Bets Tuesday, November 25th. Happy early Thanksgiving again to everybody. Gonna definitely be talking about Thanksgiving food more at some point. I don't know. I mean, we could start doing it now. You guys just, throw out, I don't know, what are your favorite Thanksgiving dishes, your favorite Thanksgiving sides, mains, whatever, desserts, everybody's going to start disagreeing with everyone. There are huge disagreements. You guys kind of know where I fall on that. I'm a New England traditionalist, so turkey, stuffing, gravy, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, homemade, and like pumpkin pie, I would say those are like necessities as far as I'm concerned. Everything else, I mean, I'm fine with, variations of everything else. All right. Yesterday was a win on the show, 7-6, which, I mean, it was a crazy day. Today should be less crazy, and hopefully we're going to win, but I'm being way more selective. But also it's a huge college basketball card again today, but I don't like a lot of it at all. I'm going to give up 3 college basketball plays. I have a play in the only hockey game. I think there are 3 NBA games I'm not really interested in, and there's Maction in college football. One of the games is unbelievably ugly. The other game, maybe a little bit less so, but it's bad, and I'm not going to give out a play on those 2 games either. Yesterday, we did get the win with Toledo, while I was doing the show. Nice outright win to start the day with Toledo. Rutgers couldn't get there. They fell way too far behind, man. They made a push late, but they still lost by, I don't know, more than 20 probably, so they did not really get that close. Notre Dame, they were hanging around. Like, if they made a push late, they could have covered that, but they lost, I think, by 10. It just sucks. We got the win with Sacred Heart. I think Sacred Heart, the game, I think, went into overtime. They had multiple chances to win outright. I think they covered. I think they lost by 2. That number was up to 4, by the way, when the game went off, but it didn't matter. They still covered the 3.5 or the 4. Northern Arizona was a win, outright win. Gonzaga got the win for us as well in the late slate with a late push there to cover there. The game was fairly close. Gonzaga, I mean, they were the better team, though. If you look at what happened in that game, they were winning the majority of the game. They just had to make a push at the right time. They were able to do it and then get it done in the end. And San Diego State, I honestly don't know what happened in that game. Just horrific shooting from San Diego State as I try to fix my wire over here. I don't know what happened in that game, man. Just want to forget about that. College basketball was 4-3 yesterday with 2 outright underdog wins, so it was a slight win with college basketball. I mean, I'll take it. Hockey was 1-1, so it was a slight loss. I think hockey was a slight win as well because the loss was the underdog, St. Louis. So you put less money on that one to win the same amount. So the one that we had more money on, Utah, was a win. Utah, easy win. Well, kind of easy. It was 5-1, but it was closer later in the game. It was 2-1 for a while. They were up 2-0 before that, though. So, I mean, the game was pretty much in hand for the most part for Utah, especially they pushed it to 3-1, and then it was basically over. Good win from Utah, the Mammoth. St. Louis Blues shockingly did not get it done. They fell behind 2-0, I think, and then never came back. They lost 3-2. Rangers winning at home in a bad spot. I'm pretty surprised by that, to be honest. So that was unfortunate. And then NBA started out looking pretty good. Dallas got us the cover there. The Mavs, they only lost, I think, by 2 or so in the game. Maybe it was a little bit more than that, but they covered. Then Phoenix was looking like they were pretty good for a while. They were hanging around, but they wound up not covering. They lost by about 10, I want to say. Maybe it was worse than that. I don't know. They were looking like they were in that game. We got the win with Golden State, although it was somewhat close. I think they won by 17. The line was down to 13.5, I think, when the game went off, so you could have gotten a little bit of a better number. They covered both. They were winning most of the game by a pretty good margin. It's just it was a little bit close. And then I don't know what happened to Minnesota because I wasn't really watching that one. The T-Wolves, they had a pretty big lead early-ish in the game. I'm like, all right, they're already like, I think they were up by at least several points like at halftime. I'm like, okay, we're on the right track here. They already have a lead here. Just extend the lead a little bit further, start running away with it. But they wound up losing the game outright. I have no idea what happened in that one. Shouldn't have given that one out as a play, to be honest. And I was correct about the Pacers. Didn't put that one on my card, but the Pacers only lost by 5, so they covered. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 2-2, a slight loss in the NBA yesterday. NBA continues to be pretty good, though. So whatever. I'm not going to complain too much about it, but I got greedy, I think, laying probably too many points with Minnesota. I should have just held off it because the number was a bit high, but I don't know, man. Sometimes I get greedy about the spots. All right. Dirty Sock, what's up, man? Pinsy, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Jeffrey, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Marshmallow and sweet potatoes, I agree with that. That is a good dish. Usually, like, when my family has a sweet potato dish, there isn't usually marshmallow involved. I think maybe we have done that before. I think usually it's like cinnamon, sugar, like butter, basically. Something along those lines. Something like a little bit sweet, yeah, for sure. You went 7-6. You put more on the Toledo game. All right. I mean, it was a bad spot for Troy. I mean, that was probably one of my stronger leans in the college basketball slate yesterday. The Timberwolves were up 10 with 3 minutes left, and they lost the game outright. How, dude? So that probably should have been a win, although, again, laying probably a few too many points, but still, that's ridiculous. Mac and cheese, yeah, at my family's thing, we never do mac and cheese, but everybody pretty much likes it, except my dad, who doesn't like flavor. Mac and cheese, yeah, I mean, I obviously agree with mac and cheese. We just don't usually have it, but mac and cheese is good, like, anytime. Mashed potatoes, yeah, for sure. With gravy, of course. Biscuits, yeah, I mean, they're always, like, we usually have some pretty good rolls or biscuits. Oh, yeah, the crescent rolls, you mean? Like, Pillsbury, you mean? That is definitely one of my dad's things, the crescent rolls. Yeah, Pillsbury crescent rolls. Surprisingly good. They're flaky. They're almost like a croissant. I do like those. I like biscuits as well. We usually have some, like, dinner roll type of things. Sometimes my brother-in-law will actually make rolls from scratch. Like, he's pretty good at that. And then what we actually do is we usually have leftover turkey, and the leftover turkey winds up going in turkey pot pies, these mini pies that my brother-in-law makes, and we eat those on, like, Christmas usually, and they're really good. The pie crust that he makes is insane, like some of the best that I've ever had. So, yeah, that is awesome stuff. Turkey gravy, I mean, yeah, I think it's a must. Like, the turkey naysayers they're just wrong. Maybe they just haven't had good turkey. They're not up here in New England or whatever, but I don't know, man. I mean, we got some good stuff up here. We got turkey farms. You can get fresh turkey up here. Turkey's good. It's got a lot of flavor. It's way more flavorful than chicken. You got to cook it right. You got to season it right. Takes a while, and then, the meat is good. The skin is good. I traditionally take too much turkey meat, and I usually am greedy and take one of the legs from the main turkey there. So you probably, if you follow me on Twitter, you may have seen that picture of me from a few years ago where I'm just biting into a turkey leg on Thanksgiving, looking like I'm at a Renaissance fair or something, being a carnivore. The vegetarians could just leave. Oh God, you want to play with the canned cranberry sauce? Yeah, pumpkin pie, hell yeah. Cookies, all right, interesting. I mean, I'm not gonna disagree with cookies, depending on which cookies. If they're like fresh baked, dude, fresh baked chocolate chip cookies, almost like nothing beats that. It's traditional. I mean, I'm from Massachusetts, so we are the originators of the Toll House cookie, which comes from I forget which town that originated in. It's on the South Shore of Massachusetts. Hanson, maybe, one of those towns. Yeah, hell yeah. But yeah, I like all that stuff, man. And on those rolls, gotta have a lot of butter, man. I overdo it with the butter. 5 times your normal bet. Oh God, I recommend. You gotta like unit size appropriately. It's all about not putting too much on one thing. I mean, if you feel more strongly about something, of course, there's a range. I don't really do it though. Like when I do it, I always have the same amount on like everything, which maybe is stupid because I do feel very strongly about certain plays, and usually my strong opinions, like they do tend to be better. But I mean, you want to like professional bettors will they'll range it, like they'll do it in a number of units. They'll basically say 1 unit is 1% of my entire bankroll, basically, and they will never want to put more than 5% of their bankroll on any given play, and they'll range their bets between 1% and 5%. They'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5% on every one, depending on like which one they think is the strongest, or depending on how they weigh them, I should say. You wasted half your bankroll on Monday Night Football. I mean, I was not right about leaning towards the over in that one. I should have listened to Marco D'Angelo in that one because he did have a free opinion on the under in that one. He was definitely right on that. I was correct on the San Francisco covering. And I saw some people freaking out about Carolina going for 2 points on the so there was a point very late in the third quarter. They were down 14 and they scored a touchdown and they went for 2. People still don't get this. They can't wrap their minds around this. And a lot of coaches are doing this now in the NFL and in college to some extent. The math bears this out. Like if you're down 14 later in the game, your goal is to have the best percentage chance to win the game. I don't know if I can explain this well, but to do that, you have a better chance to do it if you go for 2 points on that first one, because basically you're making the assumption that you're going to be able to stop your opponent and get the ball back. Although, of course, in this case, San Francisco did get a field goal. But if you're making the assumption that you're going to get the ball back and you're going to score a second touchdown, which you need to do, because if you don't do that, you're going to lose the game anyway. So I think the assumption is valid to make, because you're comparing... Basically, you're comparing 2 things. In both cases, you want to compare what's going to happen if I get my 2 when I get my 2 touchdowns. You're comparing I went for 2 on the first touchdown versus I didn't go for 2 on the first touchdown. You know what I mean? So, and the thing is, if you go for 2, basically we're saying the odds of getting the 2-point conversion are like 50-50 historically. And yeah, the odds of kicking an extra point, even if you say that the odds of making the extra point are like 98%, which they're not really, especially since the NFL moved it back, it's more like probably around 90%. But even if you assume that, it still makes sense to go for 2, because if you don't get it on the first one, you still have that second chance to do it, even though then you're playing for the tie and to get into overtime. But the whole idea is you want to avoid overtime completely, because... And you're saying that if the game goes into overtime, that's a 50-50 chance that you're going to win. But by the way, with Carolina being an underdog on the road, they're not 50-50 if it goes into overtime. San Francisco is more than a 50% favorite if it goes into overtime. So So the odds definitely bear it out. If you're a road underdog like that, it makes even more sense to go for 2, if that makes sense. Because if you get it, and then you do actually get the ball back and get the other touchdown, then you're going to win the game with an extra point. That's the whole idea. And at worst, if you do stop your opponent and get the ball back like you need to, at worst, you're going to be going for a 2-point conversion to still tie the game and send it into overtime. So if that explanation helps, I don't know, but that is the explanation. The math bears it out, man. And I think mentally it bears it out too, because going for 2 points on the first of the 2 touchdowns, there's less pressure on you on the 2-point conversion. Because if you have to go for the 2-point conversion literally on the last touchdown just to tie the game, all of the pressure is on you on that one. But if you go for it on the first touchdown, you're thinking, well, we can get another touchdown and then get it then too. So you're looser on that 2-point attempt. So even like mentally, it actually makes sense too. The Knicks line was too high. I didn't see what happened in that game. The Knicks covered barely. All right. Those turkey pot pies are insane, and they're like we make them individual size, or I should say, my brother-in-law does it. He and my sister make them. Like we eat a bunch of them for the family Christmas thing, and then usually there are some left over. I usually get like a couple to take back home. They reheat awesome. Like throw them in the oven. They're really, really good. Like up to like. You can even freeze them and eat them like weeks later and they're still good. But I just refrigerate them and eat them pretty quick because they're good. I like the gobbler sandwich. I haven't had it at Wawa, obviously, because I rarely go because they don't have them around here. I've been to Wawa before, but only a couple of times, and getting other sandwiches and like breakfast stuff. But I like gobblers, dude. It's turkey all in one. It basically... The gobbler is like the leftover meat. It's like the leftover Thanksgiving meal that you eat like the day or like a day or two after Thanksgiving. You just take all the leftovers and throw it on bread, basically. Oh, yeah. Like you got the turkey, a little bit of gravy on there. Not too much because it'll ruin the sandwich. Cranberry sauce and stuffing. Places around here, sometimes they'll put mayo on it. I could go either way with the mayo because you do already have the cranberry sauce and the gravy, so you don't need the mayo because it's not a dry sandwich once you have the other stuff on it. But I like the gobbler. It's a nice savory, salty, sweet mix. I love that. The 2-point conversion, I don't know. You could debate the existence of it in general. I don't hate it. I usually hate all the new rules because I'm a traditionalist, but not that. I got to get into these games, man. SOVNDZ, what's up, man? I have a play on that one. Should I spoil it now? Dallas. But I'll give the explanation out when I get into the hockey slate. Dallas is going to be one of my plays, though, in that hockey game. Which I don't believe I've ever had which. We don't have those up here either. We have Subway, which is awful, and their mascot dude was a pedophile, so their spokesperson. Subway's awful, dude. The quality is awful. I used to get it like a decent amount. Man, Subway's bad. And now it's not even like that cheap anymore. And they've tried to like increase their quality. I haven't been there in years though. But Jersey Mike's is probably the best chain that we have up here. Jersey Mike's does it pretty well. They like slice their meat to order. The bread's good quality. Good Italian sub at Jersey Mike's. I like Jersey Mike's quite a bit. Up here we also have Firehouse. We have some Potbelly around. Those are okay. I don't know. I mean, Jersey Mike's definitely wins it though. I miss Quiznos. Quiznos I thought was quite good, and they didn't run their business appropriately, but I liked those toasty subs, man. They were good. I liked that what was it, like Black Angus peppercorn steak, whatever. That was one of my things that I liked there. And then we have, there's D'Angelo around. I don't know if they're a local thing up here. They're okay. D'Angelo, like they actually make a decent like steak sub. The number 9, which I had the day that I had the stroke. After I'd had the stroke, I thought I was just lightheaded. We're like, let's go get some lunch, man. Me and my coworkers, I'm like, I'm getting a number 9 at D'Angelo's, which is like a steak bomb, basically. It's steak, cheese, pepper, onion, mushroom, I think. Oh, man. Yeah, the Nashville sex offenders, they are so bad, dude. Florida annihilated them last night. Yeah, I don't want to get my channel nuked, sir. All right, let's get into college basketball, man. I want to run through these. I'm not going to talk about a ton of the games today. I will talk about the ones that kind of caught my interest. We have a lot of tournaments, as I mentioned. There's some more today. Some of them are in like Mexico now, in Cancun. So again, you got to try to gauge, like, are some of these players just like going to treat this as a vacation and not focus on the game? So you have to try to figure that out. The first Quiznos ever, it's gone downhill. Oh man, they just all closed around here, so I don't even know. We do have in Fort Myers, Florida at 1 p.m. I don't have anything in these early games, by the way. Just 11 a.m. in about an hour. The Daytona, whatever that is, the Sunshine Slam is continuing with Stony Brook and Bethune-Cookman. I don't really have any opinion on that, though. Some of these games are continuing here. One game at noon with Towson and Liberty in Kissimmee, Florida. Florida. I don't really have any opinion on those games, though. We do have number 11 Michigan State and East Carolina playing at Fort Myers I think it's the Sunshine Slam tournament. Florida Gulf Coast hosting it, whatever. Michigan State, the only thing I will say about this is I believe they have not played yet in this arena. And although I don't know if ECU has yet either, I'll look in a second. But Michigan State does have North Carolina, Iowa, and Duke, and Penn State all upcoming. So those are all bigger games than this. So it is possible they don't give a full effort in this one. This is actually not the Sunshine Slam. This is the Fort Myers tip-off. So my mistake. Neither team has played in this arena yet as far as this tournament is concerned. But for East Carolina, I mean, it's a bigger game. You get to face Michigan State. I would probably take the points with East Carolina. Michigan State's up to a 22-point favorite. 79% of tickets, 84% of the cash on them. Michigan State, I mean, they're not a style of team that covers big numbers like this either. Like, as I pointed out when I faded them at least once this year, I know I won against them with San Jose State not that long ago. But Michigan State, they like to play slow. They focus on defense. This is not a game where I think they're really going to give a full effort here. They can win without doing that, and the total is low at 141.5. So, yeah, I would probably take the points in that one. Don't love it, though. Jacksonville continues to be the host of this. Jacksonville's not hosting. There is another tournament in Jacksonville, but Jacksonville's not in it. Jacksonville's in Daytona Beach in the This is part of the Sunshine Slam. Pacific is out there. Pacific is already out there now, though. Pacific beat Stony Brook by 1 million in this tournament, whenever that was, yesterday or whatever. Pacific shot like ridiculously in that game, so you got to expect some regression, even though Stony Brook is bad. Pacific beating them by almost 30 points is kind of absurd. Jacksonville kind of had a location edge where they barely got by Bethune-Cookman there, so I don't know. I kind of expect Jacksonville to play a bit better this time, and you got to expect some regression out of Pacific because they shot so well. I would probably take the points with Jacksonville, but the money's coming in on Pacific. They're already up to a 5.5-point favorite, 67% of tickets, 90% of the cash on them. So it looks like the money is disagreeing with me on that one and coming in on Pacific. They're the better team, I will say that, like based on looking at the power ratings, but I don't love it. Going to the Las Vegas Players Era tournament that's going on here, or the multiple tournaments that are going on there. At the MGM Grand, Rutgers and Notre Dame in the losers bracket. Both losers for me yesterday. 2 losers, baby. Notre Dame, I mean, they played a closer game, I guess, against Kansas. Rutgers kind of just got run out of the building, but we know that Notre Dame is the better team, though, as well. So, I mean, based on what happened yesterday, I think Notre Dame did have the more difficult game. So, in that respect, I would look to take the points with Rutgers, but Notre Dame is the better team, which is why they're a 7-point favorite now. But if you do like Rutgers, you're getting more value here as it's headed through that key number of 7. 54% of tickets on Notre Dame, 85% of the cash coming back on Rutgers. Rutgers did face I would say they probably faced the better opponent yesterday too, which was Tennessee. which, Ken Bum is also agreeing with that. Kansas, he has like 10 ranking spots below. It was Kansas, right? I think it was against Notre Dame yesterday. Yeah. So, yeah, Ken Bum kind of bears that out that Rutgers was up against the better opponent yesterday. Neither of those teams covered for me yesterday in the afternoon, which sucks. By the way, I only have one afternoon play here in college basketball, 2 night games of college basketball, and then you know what my hockey play is already, but I will explain. Although, if you watch my show, you probably know what my explanation is going to be on that already. All right. Some of these games I just don't find to be that interesting, man. We do have something going on in Palm Springs now, which is a new thing. The Acrisure Holiday Invitational. So, Tulsa's playing San Jose State here. The fact that it's in California probably is more helpful to San Jose State because they're in California, although I think San Jose is obviously in San Jose, but I think Palm Springs is more south, right? So they have to go down south for this. San Jose State just had a nice win for us on the show over Southern after Southern put up a huge performance, I think, against Washington. So I faded them after that. It's going to be a difficult spot for Tulsa, though, I think, coming in, going out to the Pacific Coast for the first time this year. Looks pretty difficult to me for Tulsa. They're a 6-point favorite now, though. The money's come in on them, driving that line up. 58% of tickets on them, 86% of the cash. I would probably look towards taking the points with San Jose State in that one, though. When these teams for the first time, they go out to a different time zone like that, it could be a little bit difficult, although it's at least not as bad because it's an afternoon game. So it'll be like just playing in the late afternoon, early evening for a team like Tulsa, so whatever. The first really big game up in Las Vegas at 2 p.m. is number 15 Iowa State and Creighton. Iowa State had a big performance yesterday, man. They beat St. John's in I don't want to call it a barn burner necessarily, although both teams do like to play fast. It was a fairly high-scoring game. It did go over the total. Big game for both teams, man, and Iowa State got out of there with a 1-point win. It was like a back-and-forth game. It was a big game. Iowa State could be maybe in line for a little bit of a letdown after that, even though I know this is the tournament, so you kind of want to keep going. You do still have motivation to keep winning. Creighton might have a little bit of something to say about that, though, because Creighton, they're an Omaha team. They're close to where Iowa is, and they may consider themselves to be kind of a little brother of sorts there in that area of the country. Creighton took the loss yesterday to Baylor. Baylor's a pretty good team, though. We know Baylor has a really good track record in basketball. Creighton maybe taking a little bit of a step down from where they were the last couple of years. It was a tough game for Creighton still, though. They only lost by 7. So, I would lean to Creighton in this game slightly, just because I think Iowa State's game was more difficult. I would probably take the points here, but no, I don't feel that strongly about it. Iowa State, the money has agreed with me on that one. Iowa State dropped from a 9-point favorite to a 7-point favorite. 67% of tickets on Iowa State. The public is, of course, going to come in on the ranked team that's undefeated. There's no doubt about that. Public wanting some afternoon action. This is probably going to be the game they're going to be focused on. And then 58% of the cash coming in on Creighton. So, yeah, I agree with Creighton in that one. Also in the afternoon, number 23 NC State is playing Boise State out in Maui at the Shammanad tournament that's out there. NC State, bad game for them. What am I saying? It was a bad game for them. They lost to Seton Hall yesterday by 11 points. That's ugly, dude. I talked about how bad Seton Hall has been the last couple of years. They're 6-0 to start the season, but they're not actually good. That was their first game where they had to step up in class. And yes, I know they won. Maybe Seton Hall is a little bit better than we think they are right now, but they've been a down program for a while. I think Ken Bum probably still has them outside of the top 100. He does not, actually, my mistake. He has them at 73rd, but that's not exactly good. But they pulled off a big upset, man. 7.5-point upset of NC State. Big win. Maybe they come out, a little bit flat off of I'm talking about NC State here now, though. Seton Hall is playing today, too, but NC State might come out flat as well because that was their first loss of the season. So sometimes when a team takes their first loss of the season, sometimes they are flat after that, too. Although you could argue they're going to be in a bounce-back spot as well because they lost as a favorite. So I struggle to figure out like what the mindset is going to be of a team in that type of situation. Although Boise took their first loss since their opener, losing to Hawaii Pacific. Hawaii has not been kind to Boise, let's just say. Losing to Hawaii Pacific, and then they literally go to Hawaii and lose. Although this time they lost to USC. USC is a pretty decent team. Only losing by 3. That was a pretty difficult game for Boise. USC is the better of the two teams, and they played USC really close. It was a battle, and they took their first loss since the opener against Hawaii Pacific. So I think the spot is actually better for NC State to actually have some sort of a bounce back here. So I would lean towards NC State. The money seems to agree. 65% of tickets, 91% of the cash on NC State. Yeah, I would generally agree with that, although Boise is a team that likes to slow the game way down, and they do play the role of the underdog pretty well because they're good defensively, and they slow the game down, whereas NC State, I believe, I forgot Ken Palm does that stupid thing. NC State wants to play fast, so Boise State might be able to slow them down a little bit. That would be my concern. But like as far as the situation, I just vomited in my mouth and swallowed it. That's awesome. Tastes great. As far as the situation is concerned, yeah. NC State probably would still be the way I would lean there. All right. We have this Mexico thing going on where I forget what the name of this tournament is. This is the Cancun Challenge. And the Cancun Challenge, I think, already started, but it was on site. And I don't mean the teams are just fighting each other physically on site. Although it was on site at the end of that NFL game last night. If you saw that, I forget who it was. Who was it on? It was Jawan Jennings, I think, on the 49ers. Some Carolina player punched him like in the dick, and then he took exception to it, but he went after a different guy. He went after one of the Carolina safeties and punched him in the head after the game was over. I'm like, this is crazy, dude. What is going on here? I don't know. I had the end of the game on. But anyway, the Cancun thing, the teams are actually just hosting the games on their campuses, and now they're literally actually playing in Cancun now for these. So, I mean, I'm just pointing it out because it's weird. Samford and Georgia State being the first game, I think there. Samford is going down there from New Mexico as they just lost to New Mexico State. The game landed right around the spread there on that one. New Mexico State was a decent-sized favorite there. Georgia State coming in. I mean, Georgia State, not a good team, although they've had a somewhat difficult schedule so far. They just got absolutely drilled by South Dakota State. Why do I keep saying San Diego? South Dakota State up in South Dakota. So Georgia State, because they looked so bad in that last game, I think I might actually look towards taking the points with them in that game. Samford had a more difficult game as well against New Mexico State, kind of. So, I mean, it was a closer game, so they played tougher. Samford is the better team, obviously, up from 5-6, but money coming back on Georgia State, that is probably what I would do in that game, take the points. 56% of tickets, 85% of the cash on Georgia State. Don't really have a huge opinion on that one, though. Z, what's up, man? Am I allowed to still call you by your actual name or not? You do have a picture of yourself, although it's kind of a weird one. Yeah, we're doing the puke and rally. All right, let's go to the bet. Well, this is sort of best bets. We're getting into my afternoon play here. We're going to lay the points with Kansas. Kansas minus 3.5. Basically, this is a fade of Syracuse. This is out in the MGM Grand at Las Vegas as well. So I actually think the venue probably favors Kansas a little bit as well. Probably they're going to have more fans show up for it than Syracuse. Syracuse just further away, and they're a down program. Syracuse, you saw what they did yesterday, man. I mean, Syracuse hadn't been tested yet, and what did they do? They played Houston and took them into overtime as 14.5-point underdogs. Syracuse played Houston really well. Syracuse looks like they may be on their way back up a little bit, but, man, I think it's going to be hard for them to get back up off the mat after this. Houston, they're one of the most physical teams in college basketball. They slow you down, grind you. They play physical, and Syracuse did all that just to fall short as huge underdogs. taking Houston to overtime. It's going to be really difficult for them to turn around and play again the next day. And that was their first loss of the season. And I talk about how that can also hang you over a little bit. Now they're going to be facing this Kansas team that just dropped out of the rankings recently, I think when they lost to Duke. So Kansas maybe playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder here, man. Kansas had an easier game against Notre Dame yesterday. They do have UConn next, but that's not until after the Thanksgiving break and whatever. So I think Kansas is going to try to keep winning in this tournament here, man. The spot is just really, really ugly for Syracuse. Like, I just don't see how they get back up after that game yesterday, even though generally I would say, yeah, you do want to focus when you're playing Kansas, but I just don't think they're going to have enough. I know it's a low total. Like, Kansas does like to play defense, but I expect them to be able to get this done, man. Looking at Kansas, they do play slow, and they play better defense than offense, I know. So usually you don't want to lay points with them, but it's not a huge number. Ken Bum does have Syracuse almost cracking the top 50 now. They also play better defense. They try to play a little bit faster, though. So if Kansas is able to slow them down and like kind of be physical with them, just like Houston was, it's going to be a long day for Syracuse if they have to try to play that way 2 games in a row like that. Kansas will be the play here. 76% of tickets, 93% of the cash. So the money seems to agree with me. And the line's already up through the 5. So, I mean, unfortunately, it was 3.5, like literally an hour ago. So do what you can with it. I mean, I would probably still lay the points. You might be able to get around 4.5, 5 on this. If you want to put it in a money line parlay, I think that's fine as well. I think they should win the game, obviously. So that's the first play there. Dude, I'm sorry. These college basketball lines, they move so fast. It's like you have to literally be in my mind and like see it right away if you want like what I'm going to do here. But yes. That's you as 6'9". I don't even know who 6'9" is. 5.5. Jeez, man. I mean, you're still not dealing. I mean, 4, I guess, 4 and 5 debatably are like slightly key. I mean, all of these numbers are somewhat key in basketball, but like there isn't like one like crazy key number besides 7 in basketball. Even that's not that key. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, basketball is almost all about like get the best number that you can. But yeah, I mean, that line is moving. I think there is definitely agreement on Kansas and the public. That's the other problem. If you agree with like the public side in a game in college basketball, that line's going to be moving, man. Or if you agree with the professional side that's in some game where the public's just not involved. Saab, what's up, man? I haven't given out the analysis on that yet, but I agree with Dallas. It is on my card today as well. So I did mention that earlier, but I haven't given out the analysis yet. All right, CBS Sports at 4 p.m. in Palm Springs. We're going to have Northern Iowa and Loyola Chicago. Now, I think there are some advantages to each team in this game. So this game, like I can see an argument for both teams here. Northern Iowa, they're off to a nice 5-0 start. They've played some decent teams in the mix there too. And most recently, they had to take a trip to California and play their first true road game at the same time, and they beat UC Irvine on their own floor, which is not easy to do. Huge win for Northern Iowa. So I could see this maybe being a little bit of a letdown spot, but the good thing for them is they're already in the Pacific time zone now. They're in California, so they're just continuing to play out in California here. So they actually have an advantage in that way over Loyola. In the Acrisure Holiday Invitational here. Loyola, this is going to be the first time they're playing in the Pacific time zone, so sometimes teams don't play well in that position, although I do think Loyola, they're undervalued right now, man. I mean, they're 1-5. They keep losing as a favorite. I mean, the only other option is that we just have this team power rated like completely incorrectly right now, so I don't know which one is the case right now, but they've lost to some decent teams in the mix there. North Texas, Wichita, Colorado State's all right, but their most recent game and their first loss, the one to Mercyhurst, but the most recent game against Northern Illinois, those are kind of unforgivable losses for Loyola, but Loyola, 13.5-point favorite in that game. They lose the game outright by 17, and it wasn't even really that misleading. If you look at the score, like the stat sheet, Northern Iowa out-rebound them by double digits, so I kind of worry, man. It is possible this Loyola team is just not that good and that we have to really, really downgrade them in the power ratings. But debatably, they could be in a bounce-back spot because that was such a horrendous loss as a big favorite. So that is maybe an argument for Loyola. And I don't think they're really as bad as their record looks right now. Northern Iowa is the better team. They're favored. They're down from 8.5 to 8 here. The money is coming in on Loyola. 70% of tickets on Northern Iowa, 62% of the cash coming in on Loyola. I mean, if you simplify this to Northern Iowa's coming off a huge win, difficult game, and Loyola's coming off a disgustingly bad loss, that would indicate that maybe you should be looking towards taking the points with Loyola. You're also, I mean, it looks like you're not really, like Loyola might be undervalued at this point in the market because you're getting a lot of points here on a neutral site, but I still worry that they're just maybe even not that good and they're going out to the Pacific Coast for the first time. So those were my thoughts when I looked at that game. It's an interesting game to talk about. Ranton is suspended. Yeah, I don't look at, I just don't even look at, I pretty much don't look at personnel in hockey at all. I'm looking at situations. Players Era tournament continuing the one at the Michelob Ultra Arena. Late afternoon, number 14, St. John's plays Baylor in the loser bracket here. I go, no, it's not a loser bracket because Baylor won yesterday, right? So I don't know what this is. I don't know how they do this round robin thing, but St. John's is coming off a really difficult game against Iowa State, man. A close loss. Could be kind of a hangover spot for St. John's after that, even though you got to think they will still try to get up to play Baylor. But it's also going to be a big-time shift as far as tempo because Iowa State likes to play fast, which is what St. John's likes to do. Now St. John's is going to run into a Baylor team that likes to play a bit slower than that. So that shift to a completely different tempo, plus it's a tempo that St. John's doesn't like, that could be bad for St. John's as well. Baylor had the easier time of it yesterday with the win over Creighton, although I'm not going to say that that's a bad win. That's a pretty good win against a decent Creighton team, but I think the spot sets up worse for St. John's here. I would lean towards Baylor, and you're getting points with Baylor, so you're getting the team that is going to try to slow the game down, getting points against a team that is a better defensive team than offensive team, which is St. John's. Baylor, I think, also tends to be a better defensive team than offense. Let me see. Actually, they're not right now. Actually, maybe they weren't last year either, although they're fairly balanced at least. Baylor, actually, they're a little bit higher in tempo this year than they were last year, but still significantly slower than St. John's likes to play. But yeah, I would take the points with Baylor here. 63% of tickets, 71% of the cash on Baylor. The public might see this and think that it's a bounce back spot for St. John's. They're the ranked team. I guess they kind of like what St. John's did last year at the very least. And yeah, they're the better team, but the odds makers are telling you that. They're all the way up to a 6.5-point favorite. So at some point, there's some value in taking the points with Baylor there. I mean, Baylor's not a bad team by any means. So I would take the points with Baylor. All right. What else did I want to talk about here? Loyola Marymount in Ohio is kind of an interesting one because you have Loyola Marymount is 6-1. This is going to be in the Sunshine Slam. This is the loser bracket this is in Daytona, I believe. Yeah, and Ohio, is 1-5. And then you look at the line here. Loyola Marymount's only 3.5-point favorite. It looks so easy to lay 3.5 with a 6-1 team against a 1-5 team, but Ohio has faced a more difficult schedule, man. So the odds makers are telling you that they're not that much worse than Loyola Marymount. Ohio's faced, Arkansas State's actually pretty good in the Sun Belt. St. Mary's is very good. Louisville's very good. They lost to Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman, I mean, they're not a horrible team, at least in the SWAC. And then most recently in this tournament, Ohio got blasted by George Mason. So they looked really bad in that game. I think there might be, some bounce back potential from Ohio here. Loyola did take their first loss of the season, Loyola Marymount. And I told you that was going to be a difficult spot for them because that was the first time they were going to the Eastern time zone. They lost to Florida Atlantic in the first game of this tournament, and it was their first loss of the season. So that could definitely set up a hangover type of spot there. And Ohio just looked way worse. Like Ohio getting blown out. Like the public, if they look at this game, they'll forgive a loss of Florida Atlantic. I think especially if they remember FAU being in the Final Four not that long ago, even though they're not that same team now. But Yeah, I would take the points with Ohio in this one, man. Loyola Marymount all the way down from a 5.5-point favorite to a 3.5-point favorite. 64% of tickets, 99% of the cash on Ohio. Money seemingly agreeing with Ohio in that game. It's a fairly low total at 145.5 as well. So taking the points seems to make some sense there. That is what I would do in that game. Back out in Hawaii, Seton Hall and USC. Seton Hall looks like they could be in a letdown spot here, man, which is what I almost said when I was talking about NC State. Seton Hall pulled off that nice upset of NC State, man, yesterday in this tournament here. Could be in line for a little bit of a letdown, even though I know they're facing another big conference team here, USC, so it's not like they're really going to overlook them. And at this point, Seton Hall, they're going to try to win this tournament here. So, I think they do have motivation to do so. USC also does because they won yesterday, although they had a tough game against Boise, man. Boise, not a team to really overlook. Like I said, Boise, they play slow. They play defense. It's tough to play them, especially for USC, who likes to play fast. And now they have to face Seton Hall, who also likes to slow the game down. And it is easier to slow the game down. However, USC is the better team, so maybe USC will be able to control the pace better in this game because Seton Hall is actually worse than Boise State. And with Seton Hall being in a potential letdown still off of that big performance last night, I would probably lay it with USC. I think USC is correlated to an over in this game. The total's gone up a little bit because they want to go fast. Seton Hall wants to go slow. So USC is going to need to control the tempo here if they're going to want to cover. You're going to need them to run the floor in this game, man, and play faster. I do worry a little bit about it because, again, the game yesterday that they had was a little bit punishing, but the money seems to agree, and they did drop from 7.5 to 7, so you get a better number on USC. Public is on Seton Hall after what they saw yesterday, apparently. 75% of the tickets, only 62% of the cash. So Seton Hall is setting up to look like a public underdog here, which you do want to fade as well, more often than not, in my opinion. Yeah, I would lay it with USC if I was going to play the game. I worry about it a bit, though, and it is still a pretty low total in general, which makes me not love the idea of laying the points as much. We have the Cayman Islands thing going on. Middle Tennessee is up against McNeese. Middle Tennessee lost, as I expected, yesterday against George Washington. An expected loss. McNeese is better than Middle Tennessee is. McNeese got the win yesterday, though, over Murray State. That was a nice win for McNeese, although they were a slight favorite. But yeah, McNeese is the better team. I probably would just lean that way just because there isn't really that much of a situation to look at in this one. 7.5-point favorites is what they are. Middle Tennessee is not as good as their record looks, though. Like, people might look at this, Middle Tennessee's 4-2, McNeese is 5-1. Getting 7.5 points looks a little bit tempting, I think, when you see those records, but Middle Tennessee is not as good as their record looks, as the odds makers are telling you. 2 of their wins are against non-Division I teams, and the other win was a small win against Evansville, who was not good. So their only good win on the season was against Murray State, so in an upset. So they're not as good as McNeese. And again, McNeese beat Murray State by even more. So, although you don't necessarily want to look at that because the public does that transitive thing and they misinterpret because they just put too much stock into one game, but you don't want to do that either. Huge game on TNT in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand at 6 p.m. Tennessee and Houston. This is going to be a really good game if you like defense. Number 17, Tennessee. Number 3, Houston. Houston's coming off an escape. So in that way, I would say, yeah, Houston is probably going to show up with focus in this one because they barely got by Syracuse yesterday, man. So that was a scare for Houston. A good team, when they get a scare, they come out with a lot of fire a lot of times in the next game. However, this is a huge game for Tennessee because, as I pointed out yesterday when I gave out the analysis on Tennessee-Rutgers, part of the reason why I wanted Rutgers in that game, even though we lost on that game, I thought Tennessee was going to be looking ahead to this because even though this is the Players' Era tournament, whatever, this is the game that Tennessee really cares about because Houston knocked them out of the tournament, like the actual March Madness tournament last year. So Houston is the team that ended Tennessee's season last year, and Tennessee is going to remember that. And it was an embarrassing game for Tennessee. Houston won easily in that game. It was a blowout. Like, Houston's defense was excellent in that game. Tennessee's not really known for great offense. Tennessee's offense really struggled in that game. So Tennessee's really going to want to try to get this one. They might be able to. I mean, as far as the venue is concerned, I don't know that either team is going to have, like an advantage with like a fan base out in Las Vegas. Tennessee's further away, but Tennessee probably has a larger fan base, like countrywide. But yeah, Tennessee's going to want this game, man. So that's probably the way that I would lean, even though Houston is kind of in a bounce-back spot after an ugly game yesterday. Houston's up to a 3.5-point favorite. It looks like the money's coming back on Tennessee. I would not disagree. 53% of tickets, 51% of the cash on Houston. So Houston slightly public in the game with what looks like less of the money on them. Money looks like it's coming in on the under, driving this already low total down to 133.5, which I don't disagree with an under in this game either, though. I mean, this game looks like it's going to be slow and all defense because that's what these teams do, man. I mean, this is just one of those games. Tennessee plays slow. Houston plays even slower, one of the slowest in the entire country. Both teams are better defensively than offensively. They're both top 5 defense, and they're both outside of the top 30 offensively in Ken Palm's ranking. So I'm not going to disagree with an under in that game, even though it is a low total. You like Creighton today? Have I talked about that game yet? I think I talked about it, right? Creighton didn't play Iowa State yet. You're saying Iowa State's in a letdown. Yeah, I talked about that game already. I leaned to Creighton in that one, but it's not a play for me. The money looks like it's agreeing with me on Creighton. Yeah, I would take the points. I would get it at least 7 if you want it. I think it is kind of a letdown spot for Iowa State, but sometimes these tournament teams will continue to be motivated. Yes, Creighton is a little bit down right now, but, I mean, they're not horrible. Ken Palm has them at 53rd overall. I mean, they're a competitive team still. Like, they haven't completely fallen off a cliff. We have UNC is playing in the Fort Myers thing against St. Bonaventure. UNC is ranked 16th in the country. They're undefeated. They have one good win so far against Kansas. Other than that, not totally battle tested. And they do have to turn around and play Michigan State in 2 days. And then they have Kentucky after that, after Thanksgiving. So maybe you don't get a full effort out of UNC here against Bonaventure. That Michigan State game is a pretty big look-ahead spot. Bonaventure is also undefeated, although they really have not been tested. Their best win is probably the Bradley win, which is a good win. Bradley's good, but yeah, I expect Bonaventure to show up here because this is their biggest game of the season, pretty much. They get to play a blue blood here, man. North Carolina's on the way back up. They're ranked. It's a bigger game for Bonaventure, so I would take the points with Bonaventure in this one. North Carolina, only a 10.5-point favorite, so I mean, oddsmakers are telling you the Bonaventure, fairly competitive team. I mean, that's not a huge line here. 58% of tickets on North Carolina. I mean, it almost looks easy to lay with North Carolina. 73% of the cash on Bonaventure. Yeah, I would take the points in that one with Bonaventure. Not a play for me, though. Okay. Well, that and the venue is probably a little bit better for North Carolina because it's in Florida. I don't know how many fans for North Carolina are really going to go down there and show up for a game against St. Bonaventure, though. Although Bonaventure, I don't know how many of their fans are going to go. Although you got to think, though, the Snowbirds might be there, though, because Bonaventure is, in upstate New York. A lot of people from New York and New England go down to Florida during the colder months. So there might be some fans there for Bonaventure that are down there. I don't know. All right. What else do we have going on here? Looking for games that are worth talking about. I don't know. There aren't too many games that are really that worth talking about, I don't think. Ohio State is playing against Mount St. Mary's. This game is actually at Ohio State. Ohio State came off that Notre Dame close win there and blew out Western Michigan. They do have Pitt and Northwestern and Illinois and West Virginia and UNC all coming up after this, so could be a little bit of a look ahead. Maybe Ohio State just doesn't take Mount St. Mary's seriously. Mount St. Mary's has been competitive, though. I mean, they covered for us, I think, against Cincinnati. I think they covered against West Virginia earlier. They took Maryland into overtime. And then we did fade them against Western Michigan. We got a win here on the channel. So I think I'm 2-0 in Mount St. Mary's games this year. So there is that. Mount St. Mary's, I mean, they're not quite as bad as their record looks. They played some difficult opponents, and they have been fairly competitive, even though I don't actually think they're that good. I think they're kind of a middle-of-the-pack MAAC team, although maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll be one of the better teams in their conference here. Probably going to get focus out of them, though, after an ugly loss to Western Michigan. Part of that handicap was also they're going to be looking ahead to Ohio State, in addition to the fact that they had just taken Maryland into overtime. So I would probably lean towards taking the points with Mount St. Mary's here. I just don't know if Ohio State's really going to care much about this game. They're up to a 28-point favorite. I know Saab likes Mount St. Mary's. 57% of tickets on Ohio State, 89% of the cash on Mount St. Mary's. So the money looks like it agrees with that side. The total's gone up a little bit, but it's still not that high at 150.5. So I think it does make sense to lean towards taking the points in that one. Of course, I got to give a shout out to BU, which is, not only a school in my city, but my entire family, basically, besides me, are BU alumni. I'm the only one. I'm the bastard child, I guess, as far as BU, because I did not go to BU. BU's coming off getting a win for us against Harvard. I mean, that's a pretty big win for BU. I mean, Harvard is a better team in the Boston area. Big win for BU in that one, man. I liked that we got the win on that on the show, too. Now BU's got to go out and play Penn State, although this is still a big game for them, though. I know it's going to be 2 big games in a row for them, though, but they get to face a Big Ten team. That's big. They played okay at Northwestern, so I don't think they're really going to be intimidated by going out to Penn State. Penn State, they're undefeated at home. They only have 1 loss on the season, but it was their only power conference team that they played was against Providence, and they took that loss. Could be a bit of a hangover for Penn State because that was their first loss of the season. So maybe that hangs them over a little bit into this next one. Sometimes you can lose the game twice when you have a big game like that and it's your first loss of the season. Penn State did beat Harvard in the game before that, so people might do the transitive thing. Oh, Penn State beat Harvard. Although, wait, BU also beat Harvard. What am I saying? I was going to say Harvard beat BU, but that didn't happen. BU beat them, so what am I saying? Both teams beat Harvard. But, yeah, to me, I mean, I think the spot actually might be a little bit worse for Penn State. I mean, I would probably lean slightly towards taking the points with BU in that one, but I think it's a somewhat difficult spot for both teams, to be honest. Penn State, at 14.5, and the total is down to 142.5. So if you do want to take the points, you're getting a decent amount of them, and it's a low total. Penn State, I mean, I'm used to them being a fast tempo team, but they're actually a slow-paced team this year, and they're high in Ken Palm's luck rankings, so they are a team that it looks like they're fairly fadeable as a big favorite. Speaking of which, I'll shout it out because Jeffrey is from Pennsylvania or whatever, from Philadelphia. Villanova, the fake Philadelphia team, is hosting Old Dominion here. Villanova, they're a team that you kind of want to fade as a big favorite as well because they actually do play slow as well. They're one of the slowest paced teams in the country, and that is still the case. Bottom 20, 30 in tempo. They're better defensively than offensively again. Villanova looks like they're on their way back up again, though, as a program. They've been pretty good. They've actually been pretty balanced this year, even though they're still slow and better on defense than offense. Could be a spot where maybe Villanova looks ahead towards Temple. I mean, that's a Philadelphia matchup at the very least. And then they get Michigan, Pitt, Wisconsin. And then Big East play starts after that. So Villanova might not totally focus on ODU, who haven't won on the road yet. Villanova's, undefeated at home. Old Dominion's not a very good team, but they may have some focus in this one. And they're coming off a loss at Drexel. Kind of an ugly loss. I mean, Drexel not that good, even though they crushed NJIT, which I was correct about on the show and gave that out as a lean. Yeah, I would probably lean to taking the points with Old Dominion here. I think the game's going to mean more to them. It's a big opponent. And again, it's Villanova laying a ton of points like this with a low total, a slow-paced defensive team. Yeah, I would look towards taking the points there. Villanova up to a 21-point favorite. The total's 146, which is not high. So, yeah, that's what I would do in that game. All right. Whew. Man, Florida Gulf Coast, I'll shout them out because they're hosting in Fort Myers here against Rice. I don't really have much of an opinion on this one. Gulf Coast coming off a win over Oral Roberts. Florida Gulf Coast, maybe it was a little bit too close for comfort, though. They almost lost to Oral Roberts, and Gulf Coast was a double-digit favorite there, so they're kind of coming off a scare. So maybe you get a better effort from Florida Gulf Coast here. Rice took a loss to Kennesaw in the previous game and took them into overtime. I don't know why we don't see what the odds were on this game. This game was definitely lined. I just forget what the odds were on that one. But Rice, I think, was certainly an underdog in that game, and they took Kennesaw into overtime. So Gulf Coast is probably the way to look in this game. Although the money seems to disagree. They're down from 6.5 to 5 here, but I would probably lay it with Gulf Coast in that one. Rice looks like they might be a little bit better than we're used to them being, though, at the very least. They've played fairly competitively against a couple of good teams. So against Oregon and maybe it was just Oregon. Maybe that's just the only one that I was thinking of, so I don't know. But Ken Pom does have Rice higher in the rankings than I thought. Going into the night slate here, UCF is hosting Quinnipiac. For Quinnipiac, man, they're coming off a pretty big upset. They went into Pitt on the road, 12.5-point underdogs, and they beat Pitt. And if you look at what happened in this game, Quinnipiac, I mean, there is no possible way they're going to repeat this performance. 57% from the field, 65% from three. That is not going to happen again. They just had a ludicrously hot night from three. They lost the rebound battle. I mean, this looks like an outlier to me, even though Quinnipiac is one of the better teams in their conference in the MAAC, but still, that's a ridiculous upset. And now they have to go down to Florida. This is going to be the furthest away from home that they've gone this year. They got to play UCF. UCF staying at home. My only issue here is that UCF is coming off a big win themselves, also against Pitt. Which they only won by 10, but I mean it's a good win when you get a win over a power conference school, man. And in that game, Pitt was terrible in the game shooting wise. 39% from the field, 26% from three. That's a bit of an outlier, but UCF did dominate them on the rebounds pretty much. Well, they won by 9 in the rebound battle, so UCF did prove that they're the better rebounding team. And if they out-rebounded Pitt and Pitt out-rebounded Quinnipiac, you got to think UCF is going to have the advantage on the boards in this game. So I would lean towards UCF. This hasn't made my card. The money seems to kind of disagree. They're down from 14 to 12.5. 75% of tickets, 100% of the cash, probably not accurate. But I would lay the points with UCF. The total's pretty high at 162. UCF does play fast. Well, Ken Pom just has them in the top 100. Oh, no, just outside of the top 100, Temple-wise. And he does have them as a pretty lucky team, which I worry about a little bit. But they're a better offensive team than defensive team, which kind of is what you want when you're laying points. Kind of. I mean, you don't want them to be bad defensively, though they're not. They're in like the top 100 at least in both. Quinnipiac is outside of the top 100 in both. Also very high in the luck index. And Quinnipiac plays even faster than UCF, so probably going to be a fast tempo game there, which might help UCF cover a number like that. So I would lay it with UCF if I was going to play the game. But Quinnipiac, I mean, you could argue they're still going to try to get up for this because they're playing another power conference team here, UCF in the Big 12. So, just something to keep in mind there. I was considering that game, though, but I'm being more selective today, man. George Mason is playing FAU. This game is going to be on CBS Sports. FAU coming off that nice win over Loyola and Marymount. George Mason, not a bad team, though. They're coming off a win over Ohio. Blowout win. I don't know if either team has played down in this. Has either team played in this? I'll have a look in a second to see if either team has played in this venue yet. George Mason, 5.5-point favorite. Florida Atlantic has 62% of the tickets, but 90% of the cash. So the money is seemingly indicating on FAU. Both teams have already played in Daytona here, so I don't think there's really an advantage, like as far as which team is used to the venue, because they both are. George Mason's win over Ohio did look really, really good, though. So maybe leaning towards FAU does make sense here. That is the way the money's coming in. I don't really have an opinion on that game, though. Temple and Princeton, as I pointed out, Temple could potentially be in a look-ahead spot, looking ahead to Villanova. Although Temple did just lose to UC San Diego, and this is in the Terry's Chocolate, whatever this is, in Kissimmee. Could be a look ahead. They're coming off, a loss to UC San Diego, where maybe they want to bounce back from that, though. I could see it going either way. Princeton coming off a loss to Bradley. I think that was expected. Bradley is actually pretty good. So, I would probably lean to Princeton here because Temple does have that potential look ahead. Villanova is always a big game for Temple, the big brother in the Philadelphia area. Villanova is. Temple up from 7.5 to 8.5 here. Don't see the percentages yet. I would probably take the points with Princeton, but Temple is the better team, as the odds makers are telling you that. Princeton might be a little bit down this year as well. And then, you have George Washington playing Murray State in the Cayman Islands thing. Murray State coming off that loss to McNeese. They did not bounce back from a loss to Middle Tennessee, so they're the team that's lost twice so far here, one of the teams that's lost twice. George Washington bounced back with a win over Middle Tennessee. They're probably the better team out of the two. They're a 7-point favorite, down from 7.5, but the money is coming in on GW. 67% of tickets, 83% of the cash on them. I'm not really going to disagree with that. I think it might be a situation where the better team just does come out on top there. I don't really have a whole lot else to go on in that one. 8 o'clock p.m., FS1, we have Indiana, who's now in the rankings at 25th, hosting Kansas State. This is an interesting game, man. Could be a fairly competitive matchup. Kansas State, though, they're coming off some big games already. They played in that Kansas City tournament that was going on there, and they beat Mississippi State and then lost by 1 to Nebraska. That's a tough loss for Kansas State, man. Those are both competitive opponents. And now Kansas State's facing their first loss of the season. Could be a little bit of a hangover spot, man. And this is going to be their first true road game as well. So those things are all negatives for Kansas. First true road game, especially this late into the season, a little bit difficult. Sometimes when you take that first loss, it hangs you over into the next game. However, Kansas State is the more battle-tested of these two teams. They face Cal, Mississippi State, Nebraska. Those are pretty good opponents. They're all power conference opponents at the very least. And they still might be focused because it's Indiana. You're usually going to get up for a game against Indiana. Indiana has faced a very weak schedule so far. Their only good win is against Marquette, which, yes, they did win quite convincingly against Marquette, but they have not really been battle-tested. Staying at home here. So I could see reasons to look both ways in this game, although I would probably lay it with Indiana, though, because Kansas State is coming off those more difficult games, more difficult spot for them, as I mentioned. Indiana's all the way up from an 8.5-point favorite to a 10.5-point favorite, though. So if you like Indiana, you've lost a little bit of value on the line. 89% of the cash on them, 61% of tickets on Kansas State. So the money looks like it is on Indiana and fading Kansas State. It looks like the public kind of is looking towards taking the points, thinking this is a competitive matchup, which I'm not saying it's not, but I think I would still probably lay it with Indiana overall in that game. Total has gone way up to up like 6 points to 163. Looks like it's going to be a fast-paced game in this one, man. Indiana, 24th in the country. They actually don't play fast, though. Indiana, 252nd in tempo, so it's kind of surprising to see the total that high. Kansas State does play fast. So are the odds makers telling you they think Kansas State's going to control the pace but still lose the game? I don't know, man. Next up, we're finally going to get into one of my final plays, and it's an ESPN game for you. So here you go. We're on two bigger games here. We're going to take Washington State plus the 7.5 against Arizona State out in Maui. This is an interesting setup here. Looking at this game, it looks like you can get the 7.5. The money looks like it's coming back and agreeing with me. 7.5 obviously is what you want to get over that key number 7 if you can. 67% of tickets on Arizona State, but 80% of the cash coming back on Washington State. And while I don't think Washington State is that good, Arizona State's not exactly that good either. Ken Pom has them at 80th. Although I think he has Washington State outside of the top 100 maybe. Yeah, he has them at 155th, but he has Washington State pretty unlucky in the bottom 40 or so in his luck index, so they're underperforming according to Ken Pom. Washington plays kind of a mid-tempo. Washington State, plays kind of a mid-tempo game, although they're much better offensively than defensively, which I don't usually love. But even though Arizona State's the more balanced team, the better team, they're the faster-paced team. But in a neutral site game, it depends, man. Like, maybe the better team will win out tempo-wise, but it's also easier for the slower-paced team to slow the game down, which might be the case here. And Arizona State is way higher in Ken Palm's luck index at 46. So he's telling you they're overperforming and Washington State's underperforming. And one of the main reasons I like Washington State here is look at what they did last night. This is in Maui. This is being hosted by Division II Shammanad. This happens every year, and like I mentioned, Shammanad always does something crazy in this tournament. And last night, in a game that didn't even have a line as far as I know, Washington State, at least according to ESPN, had like almost an 100% chance to win the game, to start the game. So that's how big of a favorite they were considered to be. Maybe that's overstating it a bit, though. But Washington State, they did not do well. Shammanad was winning this game almost in blowout fashion for the entire first half of the game. They were up by 17 at one point in the game. Washington State was looking like they were going to get blown out of Shammanad's building here. Shammanad put in a nice performance, and then Washington State overtook them, and they built a pretty big lead in the second half. Then they stalled out, and Shammanad came all the way back again and almost came back into the game, man, cutting the game back to 3 in the final minutes of the game. Washington State got away with that one, man. They escaped against Shammanad, and it was one of those things, man. Shammanad, they surprise at home, but now that Washington State's coming off that escape I'm assuming they would have been a huge favorite in the game. I think you're going to see a lot of focus out of them after coming off that escape like that. Meanwhile, Arizona State, they just beat Texas yesterday, man, in this tournament here. Huge win for Arizona State. Texas is a strong team. That was an upset as well. Texas is the better team over Arizona State. I think they were about a 7-point favorite. Of course, ESPN's not helping me out by not showing any of the lines. I think ESPN bet is down or something right now. I'm pretty sure Texas was about a 7 or so point favorite in this game, I'm pretty sure. And Arizona State was able to get by them with a late go-ahead three-pointer after a rally to win the game. It was a huge win. Arizona State was losing this game late, dude. They were losing by 10 points with 7.5 minutes left, and they came back, won the game. They were still behind with 3 minutes left and won the game. Huge win for Arizona State. And yes, they will want to try to show up again in this game, but still, I think it's one of those games, man, where it's a bad spot for one team, could be a letdown spot for Arizona State, but a really big-time refocus spot for Washington State after an escape against a Division II team. So, yeah, we're going to take the points with Washington State in that one. All right. What else do we have here? Most of these games I don't really have a whole lot of interest in. Let's see. I know we faded Cal Poly last night. We got the win. They lost to Northern Arizona. They're staying in Flagstaff here, getting SEMO. SEMO's faced a difficult schedule, man. They face St. Louis, Missouri, both on the road. St. Thomas, Iowa on the road. Those are not easy games. So SEMO is definitely better than the record looks right now. And you know me, I don't think Cal Poly is good just because I don't like the way that they play, that fast-paced style. They're down from 2.5 to 1.5, 57% of tickets and 96% of the cash on SEMO. I'm not going to disagree with SEMO in this one, man. Although I think they haven't played in Flagstaff yet, if I'm not mistaken. This game against Iowa was actually at Iowa. So the one advantage that Cal Poly has is they already played in this arena yesterday, and SEMO did not. So Cal Poly's already adjusted to the arena, but I do think SEMO with that record is a bit under the radar. Okay. Eastern Washington at North Texas. I know I'm talking about a lot of games, but at least there aren't that many games in the other sports today. Eastern Washington just got blown out by Central Arkansas, man. That was an ugly, ugly game for Eastern Washington. ESPN bet's got to get their shit together, man, because I think Eastern Washington was actually probably a favorite in that game. Central Arkansas is not that good, and that was a real ugly loss, man, losing by almost 30 to Central Arkansas. You got to think it's a bit of a bounce-back spot here. Eastern Washington is battle-tested. I mean, they played UCLA on the road to within 6, Loyola Marymount on the road to within 8, Colorado on the road to within 5. They did get blown out by Seattle after that, which I think that was one of my plays on Seattle. That was a bad spot coming off that run of games. Especially, I believe they took Colorado into overtime, as a huge underdog. But Eastern Washington, they've been competitive. They're not going to be intimidated by North Texas here. Eastern Washington probably a little bit better than they look. North Texas, I mean, they've lost both their step-up games against Oregon State and St. Mary's, although they should have won at Oregon State. I mean, they lost because, as you remember, they tried to call a timeout with no timeouts left. Now North Texas is back home, but North Texas just crushed that same Central Arkansas team. So you're looking at a situation where North Texas just beat Central Arkansas by almost 20 points, and that same Central Arkansas team just beat Eastern Washington by almost 30. So, what's the public going to do if they look at this game? It looks so easy to lay the points with North Texas, but that is not what I would do. I would take the points with Eastern Washington here. North Texas up from 11.5 to 12.5, 80% of the tickets and 95% of the cash on Eastern Washington. I think basically what you're looking at here is the public's just not really getting involved in this game. I think pretty much those numbers are just saying here's where the professional money is. The total's very low at 141. Of course, we're talking about North Texas. They slow the game to a crawl, so that makes it really difficult for them to cover as a big favorite. So that also helps if you want to take the points with Eastern Washington. That one's actually closer to a play for me, man. I do like it. It's one of those common opponent games where both of those games were just real blowout games that are going to kind of mislead your opinion on this game pretty much. So yeah, I would take the points with Eastern Washington there. We do have a big game in Las Vegas, of course, where all the big games are here at Michelob Ultra at 8:30 p.m. Number 7 Michigan, number 21 Auburn. I think Michigan looked too good last night, man, beating San Diego State in the end by 40. I mean, San Diego State was still in that game headed towards halftime. They were only down by around 10, 12 at the half. It was a single-digit game right before that, and then I don't know what happened in the second half, but San Diego State had one of the worst games you'll ever see. 27% from the field. I mean, that's unbelievably bad. San Diego State usually plays well on the interior, so they usually get a lot of 2-pointers and stuff. I don't know what happened in that game, but that might mean the perception's going to be too high on Michigan after that game. Auburn maybe a little bit under the radar, man, and people will put less weight into Auburn beating Oregon last night by 11. Nobody's really going to care about that. So I think Auburn is probably the way to look in this game. The money is saying otherwise and coming in on Michigan, but I'll disagree with that one. Michigan up from 3.5 to 5.5, 55% of tickets, 82% of the cash on Michigan. So the money's coming in on Michigan, but I would probably take the points with Auburn in that one, man. I think competitive game. Last night's results look a little bit misleading. I think it should be competitive at the very least. Winthrop is playing at Nebraska. Nebraska coming off that tournament that they won in Kansas City. They beat New Mexico, and then they beat Kansas State by 1. So they're coming off that. That was a big deal for Nebraska, I think, getting that win there against Kansas State, finishing off that tournament. Could be a game where maybe they don't totally have a full effort here against Winthrop. And Nebraska, they're undefeated, so they look intimidating. Winthrop, I mean, they're probably not going to be intimidated because, as we know, they went into Arkansas and almost pulled off the upset at Arkansas. So they're not going to be intimidated going into some road environment here. They also played well at George Mason earlier. Coming off that game over Jackson State where I gave out Jackson State as a play. Jackson State was winning that game around halftime, and then they completely fell off in the second half. Winthrop beat us, but still, I think Winthrop is going to show up. This is going to be one of their bigger remaining games on the entire season. Probably actually the biggest as far as who the opponent is. Nebraska might just be in a little bit of a letdown spot, potentially not care as much. So I would take the points with Winthrop. Nebraska is only a 16-point favorite. Don't really see the percentages on this yet. It went up from 15, but I mean, at that number, it looks pretty easy to lay the points with Nebraska, and that is not what I would do in that game. In that Montana tournament there that we've been talking about, Montana gets Oakland here. Oakland started the season with a very difficult schedule, playing on the road against Michigan, Purdue, Houston, a little bit later on the road at UCF, and actually played really well against them. And then I think we faded Oakland against Eastern Michigan off of that, if I remember correctly, but I forget. Anyway, Oakland, they're probably better than their record looks because they've had some really difficult opponents. But they did just beat Lamar in this tournament here. And Montana just lost to Lamar. That was one of our wins here on the show because Montana, dude, they were coming off that game against Texas A&M where they played really close on the road against a big boy in Texas A&M. So Montana was in a bad spot, man. So you can kind of explain that loss. I think Montana does bounce back here. People are going to look, oh, Oakland just beat Lamar, who beat Montana, and you're giving me points with Oakland. Well, of course I want to take the points with Oakland, right? Like that's, I think, the public perception, even though the market doesn't say that. 67% of tickets are on Montana, 65% of the cash on Oakland. I would disagree. I would lay it with Montana. They're up from a 1.5-point favorite to a 3-point favorite here. Don't know if those percentages are going to be the same when the game happens. But, yeah, I mean, looks like one of those transitive property things, again, where you're being misled by that common opponent that the teams just both played. Yeah, I would lay it with Montana, although I will still agree that Oakland is definitely a little bit under the radar. They're not as bad as their record looks. All right. Maryland is playing Gonzaga. Gonzaga had the big win for us last night. By the way, I forgot to mention, Gonzaga is also used to playing in Las Vegas. So sometimes when these other teams like that aren't used to it go to Vegas, sometimes they get distracted by all the festivities, the lights, the hookers, the beer, the gambling. But Gonzaga does not get distracted by that because they play in Las Vegas all the time. Like their conference tournament is in Las Vegas. A lot of times they play these early tournaments in Las Vegas too, so they do have an advantage there. And because of that, they also have a bit of a fan base there, which I did kind of allude to yesterday. But now Gonzaga's coming off that huge win over Alabama. Now they get Maryland. Maybe a little bit of a letdown component to this for Gonzaga. Maryland, nice win last night over UNLV, who is kind of the host of this. It's in their city, although it's not at their home arena. But, I mean, UNLV, they still get a home crowd there because they're in Las Vegas. So kind of a big win for Maryland still. But the win for Gonzaga was very big yesterday, and it was late, and it was a fast-paced game. I think it did go over the total as well, by the way, the Gonzaga game, which I told you, the total in the high 170s, I think that still wasn't even enough. I think it hit 180. It barely got over, but I think it did. Yeah, I mean, I would probably lean towards Maryland in this game. Gonzaga's going to be public, 83% of tickets, but 98% of the cash on them, and they're up from 13.5 to 14. So the money does seem to be coming in Gonzaga. They do still have the location edge, though. I don't know. Maybe there won't be a letdown because they're going to try to win this tournament, but I might take the points with Maryland, although we still have to see what Maryland is going to wind up doing without their best player, man, because they have not stepped up. This is going to be the most difficult team that they've faced all season so far, not just without their best player who went down in the Marquette game, but Maryland, I mean, Gonzaga's better than both Marquette and Georgetown and, of course, UNLV, so this is going to be the most difficult game Maryland's faced all season. So most difficult opponent, most complete team. So we will see. Gonzaga, I mean, they're a powerhouse this year, man. I don't think, yeah, I mean, I kind of alluded to that yesterday, but they're very balanced. Usually recent years, Gonzaga's defense has been their problem, but they look very balanced this year. Good offense, good defense, and they're a very good rebounding team too. This Gonzaga team is going to be very, very difficult to beat this year. I think. All right, we do have Ole Miss and Iowa playing in Palm Springs. Interesting game, SEC, Big Ten. Both teams, I believe, are undefeated, right? Yeah, both teams are undefeated, but neither team has really had a test yet. Ole Miss, best win is over Memphis. Iowa, best win is over Xavier. Not totally impressive. Both teams having to go out to California for the first time this year, too. So both teams in a very similar spot. So I think when that's the case, you have to kind of simplify the handicap, and it just comes down to which team is the better team. And the odds makers are telling you that is Ben McCollum and Iowa, although they're up from a 1.5-point favorite to a 4.5-point favorite. Asking them to cover 4.5 is a lot different than asking them to basically just win the game, where if it was 1.5, you could even play the money line. Ole Miss has 52% of the tickets, but 64% of the cash coming in at Iowa. I think the perception is, the SEC is awesome. We saw Ole Miss make that nice run to the Elite Eight last year or whatever it was. Or no, it was to the Sweet 16, I guess is what it was last year. And they lost to Michigan State, I believe. Almost won in that one. And then Iowa, I think, didn't even make the tournament last year. So I think the public perception kind of from last year, and because, SEC good, the public, I think, is undervaluing Iowa. I mean, this Iowa team, they're on the way up again. I mean, Ben McCollum, he knows what he's doing. He just seems to be like turning these programs around almost instantaneously, but also doing it by bringing like his guys over so they have the chemistry already in place and whatever. So I agree with Iowa in that one, but I don't think I would want to lay that bigger number there. UCLA playing Cal on ESPN at 10 p.m. up in San Francisco in whatever this is. The Mizzen and Maine Empire Classic. Okay, Meetzen and Maine, whatever it is. Meetzen. Try to pronounce it in an Italian way. UCLA is the better team, but Cal's probably going to want to like get up for this because they consider themselves to be a little brother in California, and the location here is closer to Cal. It's closer to Berkeley than it is to Los Angeles. So some things kind of working in Cal's favor a little bit there. UCLA is going to be public, but they are up from 6 to 8.5 here. 75% of tickets, 87% of the cash on UCLA. Money coming in on UCLA. I would probably lean towards fading them, though. It's a fairly low total at 145, which might mean the underdog may be able to stick around in this game. I think it's a bigger deal for Cal. That's the way I would go, but I don't think either team is really coming off like a huge game or anything like that. So, yeah, both teams just beat I think both teams just played the same teams, Presbyterian and Sacramento State. I think that's what this is, the Empire Classic. I think Sacramento State is the host of it. I think that's what's going on there. I think it's at Sacramento State's arena. So, yeah, just something to keep in mind there. And then, yeah, Texas is facing Shammanad now, which I think after Texas lost as a favorite last night, and Shammanad maybe blew their wad. That was their one big performance for the home crowd against Washington State. Texas is probably going to win easily in that game, but there's no line on it, so I don't know. San Diego State's facing Oregon. San Diego State, this is out in Las Vegas as well, late night. San Diego State, I mean, that was embarrassing, man. I mean, you got to think they're going to play better this time. I mean, they could not possibly have shot worse in that game against Michigan. Terrible performance from them. You got to think they're going to do better after. I know it was a good opponent they were facing, but losing by 40, you're going to want to try to bounce back from that, like not embarrass yourself. And I think the spot is kind of worse for Oregon because they took their first loss of the season, and it was the best opponent they faced so far in Auburn. I know San Diego State's not as good as Auburn, but they're going to be the second best team Oregon's faced so far. And Oregon could lose that game twice after taking their first loss of the season to Auburn. So I lean to San Diego State in this game because they just looked horrendous last night. But the money's coming in on Oregon, up from 1.5 to 2.5. 91% or 71% of tickets, 91% of the cash on Oregon. I don't know about that. Like, unless there are some injuries, I don't even know if I agree that Oregon's the better of these two teams. It's a low total, so I mean, if you think San Diego State's going to be able to slow it down, Oregon has not exactly been scoring a lot either. I mean, under makes sense in the game too, but if San Diego State's going to slow the pace down, that might mean that they're going to cover as an underdog here. Although if you're asking them to cover, you basically ask them to win the game. But I think they're going to be better than they were last night, man. And then you have UNLV and Alabama playing very late night at midnight Eastern. I mean, I know Alabama's already adjusted to the time zone at least, but man, that's a late night game. UNLV might have a better go of it. And Alabama had to play that huge game last night, running up and down the floor with Gonzaga. Falling short in that game, and they were in that game for quite a while. Might be a bad spot for Alabama coming off of that, man, and they're going to have to face UNLV's home crowd here. UNLV is going to want to get a win after they took the loss last night to Maryland. I like UNLV in this one. Alabama's very public. 91% of the tickets, 95% of the cash. 13.5-point favorite. You think last night's total was big, by the way? Look at this one. 182 is the total in this one. Both teams obviously like to play fast. That is an insane total, man. And I wouldn't want to play the under in it either. I mean, I don't know, man. The game very well might go over that total. I mean, I don't do totals, don't really want to get involved. I was right about the over in the Gonzaga-Alabama game, but man, a very high total. I don't love taking points with a very high total, though I still do lean to UNLV, plus the points as well in that one with the way that game sets up. Yeah, I mean, that's about it. Utah's playing Grand Canyon also at midnight in the Palm Springs thing. Grand Canyon, I think they're better than the record looks right now. They took losses to Youngstown. I think that was a loss as a big home favorite. Grand Canyons, that was a bad upset loss. And they lost on the road to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in St. Louis. I mean, they're a pretty good St. Louis team there. Grand Canyon, they should be up for this game against Utah. So, I think they're going to show up. Utah took their first loss of the season, so sometimes that will hang you over. They lost to Cal Poly, although it was an ugly loss. I mean, Utah was a big favorite in the game, so sometimes you will bounce back from that. So we will see. Although Grand Canyon, I mean, they're not that bad, and they're actually favored in this game. So I think the public's going to have a tendency to think, oh, Utah, they're a power conference team, and I'm getting points with them. That looks tempting, right? But Utah looks like they're shaping up to be a public underdog here. 73% of tickets, 60% of the cash on them. Grand Canyon up from a 3.5-point favorite to a 4-point favorite. Looks even weirder, not just because they're a smaller conference team, although now they're up in the Mountain West, so they're moving up in the world. But the fact that their record is worse than Utah. But again, Grand Canyon's faced a more difficult schedule so far. Oddsmakers are telling you they're actually better than Utah, and I don't think I disagree. Utah's not very good. Ken Baum has them at 121st, and he has Grand Canyon 99th. So, yeah, I don't disagree with Grand Canyon there in that one. All right, let's get to the one NHL game where I have my other play here. Thank you, sir. Jeffrey, you know what my last play is, and I don't have anything in the NBA, although I'll talk about the games. And college football, I don't have anything either, but I'm going to talk about those now. Thank you, sir. Thanks for hanging out. Hockey. Oh, no, wait. Dude, wait a minute. Holy crap. I forgot one of my basketball plays. What am I doing? This is my weakest basketball play, but I do have a play here. How did I miss that? Yeah, here we go. We're going to lay the points with Austin Peay. I don't know if we're going to be able to get better than 7.5 on this. Austin Peay is hosting this game. People are going to see, 3-3 team versus a 3-3 team. Why would you want to lay 7.5? Why is the spread 7.5 with Austin Peay? This is against Northern Illinois. Well, the oddsmakers are telling you Austin Peay is the better team. I happen to agree with that. I mean, the power ratings guys will tell you that too. Northern Illinois, they're not a good basketball program, man. I'll just put that out there. Northern Illinois, as I pointed out, they had that huge upset at Loyola Chicago. That was a big win, not only because Loyola Chicago has that name behind them, but Northern Illinois considers themselves to be a little brother in Illinois. So beating Loyola Chicago, huge for them. Huge win. And as I pointed out, they were a double-digit underdog in this game, too. So that was a huge win for all those reasons for Northern Illinois. It wasn't a very misleading result, but still, I think it's such a big win for Northern Illinois. I think that puts them in a letdown spot coming off of that. Now they're going to go on the road. They got to play Austin Peay. Northern Illinois hasn't been as good on the road, although they played difficult opponents. Yeah, Wisconsin, Grand Canyon, Northern Iowa, but they lost all those games by double digits. So I know Austin Peay is not as good as any of those three teams, but still, Northern Illinois, they haven't been very good on the road, except for that win over Loyola Chicago. Austin Peay, they only have one home win so far, which was not even a Division I win, but they're pretty battle-tested. They've been on the road as well. Their biggest game was against Ole Miss, but they played close games pretty much on the road, man. They took Ole Miss. They played Ole Miss to within 7 points. So Austin Peay, maybe a little bit under the radar right now. Now, this is going to be their first Division I home game of the season. I think they're going to be up for this game. It's a huge letdown spot for Northern Illinois. Austin Peay, they're coming back home after, being on the road for a while, losing games on the road. They've been off since Friday, so they have a little bit of time off to get used to it. Of course, Northern Illinois has had a lot of time off too, but they're just going to be basking in that upset win, I think. So that time off, I think, is much more helpful to Austin Peay, having a few days off. The road trip return thing isn't really a thing in college basketball because you return to campus, but, these guys don't have family stuff to get back to and whatever. I don't think they focus on their classes that much. Let's just put it that way. As long as they're not partying too much. And when you're losing, I don't think you're partying as much. Austin Peay, actually, you can get a much better number on this. Let's fix it. You can actually get -6 on it right now, it looks like. So the money's coming in against me. Fuck it. We're going to lay the 6 then. It's down from 7.5 to 5.5. The money's disagreeing with me. 50% of tickets, 83% of the cash on Northern Illinois. Whatever. I don't agree with it. Northern Illinois sucks. Ken Baum has them 254th in the country. They play a slow tempo. They're really bad defensively. He's got Austin Peay 184, so he has them significantly better. He has them way better defensively, even though I think he actually has them slightly worse offensively. But we're going to go with the better defense in this one. And then also Austin Peay, he has them lower in his luck index. He has both teams having a somewhat similar strength of schedule, and Austin Peay is faster than Northern Illinois. So they're going to try to speed the game up, and if they can do that at home, that will probably throw Northern Illinois out of the style of game they want to. I think you can get about 6 on that now, which is a lot better. So, yeah, lay it with Austin Peay. All right, let's get into now we'll go into hockey. All right. I know these college basketball, man, I'm going to start doing college basketball Saturdays during the night and maybe whatever the other big day is during the week as well. You already know what my play is in hockey. Dallas, money line, that's what we're going to do here. This is a horrible spot for Edmonton, dude. I know you could argue, well, this is quick revenge for Edmonton because they lost to Dallas not that long ago. And that was a huge win for Dallas because Edmonton eliminated Dallas from the playoffs last year. So that was a big game for Dallas back on November 4th. Dallas won it in a shootout. But Dallas is still going to be focused for Edmonton, man. And maybe beating Edmonton once in a regular season game maybe isn't even enough. But the spot for Edmonton is just god-awful here, dude. Edmonton's returning home from a road trip that they've been on for like 2 weeks. They've been on the road since November 12th. They went all the way to the East Coast, went up and down the East Coast, all the way down to Florida, and now South Florida, all the way back up to Edmonton is one of the longest trips in the NHL. They've had a couple of days off, but I think that makes you settle in at home more. I do not like it at all. A lot of times when you return home, you got stuff to do back at home. You're distracted, whatever. And to make it worse for Edmonton, you want to talk about playoff revenge? Playoffs? Oh, yeah, let me do it. Why not? Playoffs? What?
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game. Another game.
Plus, that lets me take a sip of water, too. But Edmonton just beat Florida, man. That was... And they beat them 6-3 in Florida. That is a very satisfying win. And, of course, that is Stanley Cup final revenge. First time Edmonton played them since the Stanley Cup finals last year. They go into Florida and beat them. Huge win for them. So now they're in a return home spot and a letdown spot. It's a terrible spot for Edmonton here. For Dallas, Dallas is coming up an ugly loss to Calgary. And they're already up there in the... they're already in Alberta, so they're only going from Calgary to Edmonton, so they're already there. The travel spot is a lot better for Dallas. And for Dallas, they've had the same amount of time off, too, and they're just sitting up there probably getting angry and fired up. Maybe they were even looking ahead to Edmonton because the loss to Calgary is pretty ugly. And that was with DeSmith in net, too. So Ottinger, Dallas's primary goalie, will be back in net for this one as well, so that makes a difference as well. That means Dallas is focusing on this game, man, and they're probably going to be extra angry after that ugly loss to an inferior Calgary team. Yeah, Dallas, we're getting them as an underdog here, too. Let's do it. 53% of tickets, 53% of the cash on Edmonton. They're down from -145 to -130. So the money looks like it is fading Edmonton. We're going to join. We're going to agree. Dallas, money line underdog. I think it's a solid play. Let's do it. All right, NBA. I don't have anything on these NBA games. There are 3. I like it when it's a lighter card so I can get the show done. Atlanta and Washington. I mean, this is an ugly game, man. Atlanta's still without Trae Young. They've been playing decently without him. They've won 2 games in a row. They did just return home from a quick trip, and they won but didn't cover against Charlotte, and now they're going right back out on the road. But their next game after this is Cleveland, and then they have Philadelphia and Detroit, so those are bigger games, so it could be a bit of a look ahead here. Maybe Atlanta just doesn't totally focus on Washington here, even though Atlanta's coming off a lackluster game against Charlotte. So I could see it going both ways as far as whether they'll focus or not. This Washington team, 1 win, the only 1-win team in basketball. It is ugly for them, man. And they're returning home from a road trip, which isn't exactly great. They've been on the road for almost a week, going to Minnesota, Toronto, and Chicago. Not only losing every game, but playing Chicago really close to within 1 point. So I don't love the spot for Washington returning home from a road trip. Sometimes you do fall into that distraction spot and you get distracted. So the spot's bad. I think the spot's not great for either team, but Washington looks like they're a public underdog. 75% of the tickets and only 54% of the cash. I don't know why the public would be doing that if they really are, but the market read says to lay the points with the Hawks. They're up from 10 to 10.5. Would I want to lay double digits with the Hawks on the road? Not really, especially when they might have a look ahead to Cleveland up next. I mean, sometimes it does make sense to lay the double digits on the road, but this game I just want to stay away from. I mean, I guess I'll lean with the market read towards laying the Hawks. Very, very timid agreement for me on that one, but man, that is not a game I want to touch. Orlando at Philadelphia, a more competitive game here. It'll be a big game for both teams. I think Orlando, the game was actually closer on the final score than I thought it was against Boston, where we got the win with Boston on the show here. Orlando's last game. The Celtics were blowing Orlando out of the building in that game by more than 20 points, and then Orlando didn't go away, and they put in a huge effort to make the game a bit closer towards the end. I think they actually got back to within 6, so the Celtics almost didn't cover the 4.5, even though they absolutely should have with the way they were blowing Orlando out for most of the game. Now Orlando's coming off that. They had a huge run to try to win that game. Now they got to go on the road to face Philly, a third game in 4 days. All in different cities. Somewhat of a difficult spot here, man. Do they totally focus on Philly? I don't know. They got Detroit up next. Philly, I mean, they're a decent team that you probably will focus on, but Philly, the problem is you never know who's going to be in their lineup. So looking at their lineup, Edgecombe is already ruled out. He's missed, I think, a game or two already. Paul George, I believe, will play, so he'll be in. Embiid is a game-time decision, but he hasn't been... it looks like he will actually play, so he participated in the shoot-around. He's been out for a while, so I don't think that's good, though, for Philadelphia, because he's still like their star player, basically. So when Embiid is coming back, I mean, yeah, he's going to be a big body on the interior, but his knee is all messed up, and I think when he comes back, the line over-adjusts to the fact that he's going to be there. So first game back, it makes it kind of a reverse injured player spot, which I don't really like. And then it looks like Maxey is going to play. I think, and yeah, he's listed as a game-time decision, but he's probable. He's going to play. So basically, the only guy out is Edgecombe. So you're going to pretty much almost have the full lineup for Philly here. But again, Embiid coming back from injury, if that's the case, I don't love that. As far as Philadelphia's scheduling spot, I think the scheduling spot is a little bit better for them. They just they just lost to Miami at home. Kind of an ugly loss by double digits, and now they're just staying at home. So I do think the spot looks a little bit better for Philly, and the line has gone up from Orlando -1 to -2.5, which that would seem to indicate that Embiid might not be playing, although it looks like he is because he participated in the shoot-around. So you're getting points with the Sixers at home, 80% of tickets, 58% of the cash on the Magic. So Magic are public, and the money is seemingly fading them. So the market read says 76ers. I hesitate because with Embiid coming back, it could kind of throw a wrench in their chemistry. I don't love it, man. And then in the late game, we have LA, which I think this is a bad spot for the Clippers. The only thing I will say is that the fact that the Lakers are only a 6-point favorite and they have a really good record, and the Clippers' record sucks, it almost looks too easy to lay the points with the Lakers in this one. The Clippers, I mean, they still consider themselves to be the little brother in LA, so they are going to want to try to get up for a game against the Lakers. And I think the Clippers are not as bad as their record looks, but man, and they've had injuries to deal with. Leonard has been out for a while. I think he's probably still out, though. But for the Clippers, I don't like the spot. I mean, they've been on the road since Friday, November 14th. And the problem is, even though this is technically a road game, this is basically the road trip return spot for them because they're back in LA. I mean, this is where they live. So you know that they got back home. They probably started to do stuff back home. So I think the return home distractions are actually going to come into play here in the return home spot. Even though in their last game they got blown out by Cleveland. But this is also a third game in 4 days, fourth game in 6 days, all in different cities with some of them being on the East Coast. So that makes it a difficult spot for the Clippers as well. The fact that the return home distractions, I think, are coming into play here. This is basically the return home spot. I don't like it for them, man. The spot sets up better scheduling-wise for the Lakers. The Lakers, they returned home on Tuesday, and then they had a bunch of days off, and then they had that one game road trip to Utah for some reason in the zigzag. Basically, in Utah got the job done for us here with the cover. The Lakers won, but we got the cover with Utah there. I think the Lakers totally lackluster performance. They're the way more rested team because they had 4 days off prior to that. They're doing way less travel. I think they'll bounce back from that game. I would lay the points with the Lakers in this one, and the money agrees. 54% of the tickets, 88% of the cash on the Lakers. They're up from 5 to 6. If I was going to play a game, it would be this one in the NBA. I would do that. I would lay it with the Lakers, but oh man, I'm tempted to do it actually. Should we? I think I kind of want to stay away from it still. It's a bit of a misleading line there, but yeah, I agree with the Lakers there. I mean, I think it looks too easy to lay the points with the Lakers. Plus the Clippers, it's group play. Oh my God, the NBA Cup, whatever it is. Maybe the Clippers will be more motivated for that reason. Whereas the Lakers, I mean, they want to win a championship this year, so they don't really care about the NBA Cup. Clippers, it looks like their guys are basically going to be there. So it looks like they're probably going to have Harden and Leonard actually in this game. And for the Lakers, the only guy out is Ayton, or some guys call him Ayton. I don't know how you pronounce his name, but for the Clippers, let me just make sure that's the case because Leonard's been out for a while, I thought. But does that mean, and Bogdanovich is out for the Clippers, so that's, you know, he is one of their key players, and he's out. James Harden, he's been out some games, and he's been in their last few games. He's fine. He's playing. Kawhi Leonard looks like he is back, but when was the last time he played? He played in their last game against Cleveland. So actually, that was the reverse injured player spot for Leonard. He came back in that ugly loss to Cleveland. So this will be his second game back. So that is a little bit better for the Clippers in that regard. But I'm staying away, but lean to the Lakers in that one. All right. And then we have college football, which is just this first game. I mean, this is ugly. This is actually in the afternoon at 4:30 p.m. on ESPNU. So if you want to watch Bowling Green at UMass, you can go watch it on ESPNU, baby. This is as ugly as it gets, pretty much. I mean, both of these teams are going absolutely nowhere. They're both done for the season, basically. So it's like, which team is going to show up with motivation in this game, if either of them, to finish the season off? I don't know. Bowling Green, pretty big game in their last game against Akron, even though Akron hasn't been good this year either. Bowling Green took the loss. That was Bowling Green's, that was their senior night. That was their last home game, so maybe that was the game that they put the most effort into. That was last Tuesday. Don't know if are they really going to be excited to finish the season off when they've had a season that they're probably just done with at this point? Are they really going to be excited to go to Amherst, Mass, and beat UMass by margin? I'm thinking they won't. And maybe there will be motivation on the UMass side, even though they are pathetically bad. I mean, they have not been able to really even come close in most of their games, except they did come close at home against Buffalo. I mean, that was a decent performance, and this game is kind of similar to that one in a way where it's a similar opponent, and it's at home, so there is that. UMass, I mean, this has been an unbelievably bad season, but here's the thing about UMass. This is going to be senior day for them. This is their last home game, and I think you got to think they'll be motivated to try to get a win, man. Like, let's not go winless on the season. I mean, they've been a laughing stock, so they probably want to just get that win, try at least, even though it's unlikely because they're that bad. But we don't need them to win here if you want UMass. You only need them to cover. I'm not saying you should take UMass, but I think I agree with the UMass side. UMass, I think this is going to be literally their last game as a Division I, or excuse me, as an FBS team too. They're going back down to FCS, I believe. I kept saying Division III, which basically that's where they should be. But I think UMass is going back to FCS after this. But yeah, I mean, this being their final home game of the season, trying to actually get a win on the season, and this being their last game as an FBS team, I think that will motivate them to some extent. So I think UMass does have more motivation in this one. Bowling Green is very public. You're getting 2 touchdowns with UMass at the 14.5, 85% of the tickets and cash on Bowling Green. I would take the points with UMass if I was going to do it. We got a low total. The money looks like it's coming back in on the over. 52% of tickets on the under. 56% of the cash on the over. But I lean under in this game as well. The total down from 45 to 44.5. These offenses are both pretty bad, dude. So especially UMass. I know Bowling Green might be able to move the ball against UMass's bad defense, but even so, Bowling Green just might not be motivated to do it, man. Like, I think there is more motivation on the UMass side. I would take the points and just hope that they're able to get to keep it within 2 touchdowns. Hope it's just a disgusting, ugly game. Bowling Green wins by, 10 points or something like that. It could be. I mean, that could be what happens there. No, UMass has been in the MAC. I think it is confirmed. UMass has been in the MAC for multiple seasons. And it's been pretty bad for them. Let me see. How many years have they been in the MAC? Last year they were in the MAC and they went 2-10 overall. Oh no, wait, you're right. They weren't in the MAC. They played a bunch of MAC teams, but they had no conference record. So I think you're right. They weren't actually in the MAC. I looked and I'm like, oh my God, they played all these MAC teams. I think you're right. Yeah, this is their first year in the MAC. So my apologies. Z, you're right. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking they were in the MAC last year because they had all those games against MAC opponents. They played 5 MAC opponents last year. But yeah, they were not actually in the MAC, so you are correct. I think it is confirmed, though. Let me just make sure of that. Let me see if I can. Even when we lose, we have a blast. Yeah, great. No, maybe you should be pissed off that you're losing, sir. I don't like that. Like, why are you partying if you've been ass all season? No. Come on, man. Try to win. Let me see if I can figure out if UMass is moving down. Let me see. I found an article about it here. Sunk cost football. UMass faltering quest to belong in the FBS on Sportico.com. This article came out, when did this come out? November 24th of this year. So yes, literally yesterday. Let me see. What is this saying? It's, who's Lacey? Let me see. He's I guess he's like the head of the school or something. So this is the quote from Lacey. He said, if we go without a win this year, I can maybe see some real movement to leave FBS. Yeah, like I can just imagine folks thinking this is it. We're at the end of the road. So it's not confirmed. You're correct. But basically, he's saying if they lose this game, it's more likely that it's going to happen. So does UMass want to save their FBS? Or that's actually worse for UMass because UMass might think, we don't want to keep losing like this. Like, we want to at least be a competitive team. So does that mean they're going to, just not want to win this game so they will get demoted to FCS and actually become more competitive again? I don't know, man. But I don't think so because, I mean, these are still football players. I mean, tanking is not really a thing, dude. I mean, it's very overstated. Like, once you get out there on the field, you don't try to lose the game unless you have, money gambling-wise, betting against yourself. You know what I mean? Which is illegal. In Massachusetts, you can't bet on the Massachusetts schools for that reason, which is BS because I want to be able to do it. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think that the teams, do that intentionally. Just because when you get out there, it's just against human nature to, tank. You know what I mean? Yeah, well, I mean, UMass was the one team that moved into the MAC last year, right? So it would be, the MAC would be the same as it was last year, right? It's just the MAC. I mean, they don't have a set number of teams. How many teams are in the MAC? 13. Is there really much of a difference between having 13 and 12? Not really. They don't have a playoff structure. The top 2 teams in the MAC get into the MAC championship game, and that's it. Speaking of which, the top team in the MAC right now is in the second game, the game tonight, Western Michigan playing against Eastern Michigan, and these two teams don't really like each other. The 3 Michigan schools have a rivalry against each other, Western, Central, and Eastern. ESPN2 has this game. Our dude on Noah Kaniga is playing here, Eastern Michigan. I assume he's not hurt or anything. This is ESPN2, 7:30 p.m. Eastern here. Western Michigan Now they're atop the conference. There is still a chance that they drop out of the MAC championship game, though, so they do have incentive to keep winning because they want to, get into that MAC championship. Now I don't remember if the top seed actually hosts the MAC championship or if it's a neutral. I think it's a neutral site. I think they play at Ford Field or something like that, where the Lions play. So I don't think that that's at stake, but still Western Michigan, there is still the potential they don't even get into the championship game. So they do still need to keep winning. They did get a nice win last week at Northern Illinois. They got a win for us the week before that against Ohio. By the way, I forgot to mention both teams in the UMass and Bowling Green game, they both played last Tuesday, so there's no rest advantage there. Western Michigan is having to go on the road here, though, to face Eastern Michigan here. Eastern Michigan, their season is over, but now this is senior night for them, so I think they might show up for this because they get to host an ESPN primetime game. This is the first time Eastern Michigan has hosted an isolated primetime game like this all season. This is literally the only football game on at this time. Well, either, FBS or pro football. This is the only one tonight. Big game. They get to host it on ESPN2. They potentially get to play spoiler against their rival Western Michigan. And again, it's senior night. It's their home game. And this is the last time they're playing this season. So I do think it's a good spot for Eastern Michigan. I think they're going to show up motivated for this game. And they get to, even their record. They get to go 4-4 in conference, which may be a little bit of an extra motivator as well. I would take the points with Eastern Michigan here, but the money is saying otherwise. Western Michigan's up from a 6-point favorite to an 8-point favorite. 58% of tickets, 54% of the cash on Eastern Michigan. Maybe it's the Kaniga factor is getting the public jumping on Eastern Michigan. I don't know. I don't understand it because I would take the points, especially you're getting above a touchdown now, and the total's down to 46.5. So it's a pretty low total. I mean, Western Michigan, they're not good offensively. Like, they're a pretty balanced team, I guess I would say. They play good defense. Their offense is okay, but I think they run the football quite a bit, and they don't put up a lot of points. So asking them to lay points like that on the road in this situation, I think I would take the points with Eastern Michigan. I'm not going to do it, I don't love going against a market really like that where the home team is starting to look like a public home underdog. I really don't like that, but I would disagree with the market read in that one. I would lean towards taking it with Eastern Michigan. And that's it. That's going to do it, man. For the games today, we start out with an afternoon game with Kansas in college basketball minus the points. The only other two are night games in college basketball. We're going Washington State plus the points. The Koberger school there. And then Austin Peay minus the points, which the market looks like it's against me, but hopefully we come out and we get to Peay, man. Austin Peay, by the way, that's when you go and you urinate in what's that big lake there? Lady Bird Lake, whatever. It might be named for Lady Bird Johnson. I don't know, whatever. You get to go urinate in Lady Bird Lake. That's the Austin Peay. But no, Austin Peay, the school, is actually in Tennessee. Just so you know. Named after the man, Austin Peay, whoever the hell. Well, they're called the governor, so he must have been an old governor of the state of Tennessee, I would assume. So, yeah. But yeah, I think that's going to do it, man. And then we do have the hockey play on the Dallas Stars money line. That's going to do it. 4 plays today. It's a lighter board today. Makes my job a little bit easier to do the Instagram videos, but I'll throw out a ton of plays if I see situations that I like. I'm not afraid to splash the board. That's my thing, but I'm trying to be selective to some extent. We are today. Let's get it done, man. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Like, subscribe to the show here. Give me some good comments. It all helps me out. Listen on audio. Give me good reviews on audio or on Apple, Spotify. That all helps me out, too. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube. I got to get back to the Uke stuff. I know. I want to do, live requests hours as well. It's just my voice is just not holding up right now, man. I know I got to get back to Charles' requests as well on Patreon. I'll check it out. Patreon.com, Learn to Toad. You can get a bonus Spotify feed there with Uke stuff, and you get Uke requests, like I said. I should add more content, but we'll see. That's going to do it for now. There is some stuff in the works, man, where I may wind up being on multiple different podcasts as a like new podcasts that don't exist yet. So we'll see what happens, where I'm going to be one of the co-hosts and or panels on those podcasts, but we'll see what happens. That's going to do it for now, but there might be some things in the works. I'll let you know if and when those things are happening. But peace for now, guys. Thanks for hanging out.